Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. This is episode 2 of Season 2 for 2021. You may be wondering, well, TJ, why is this episode 2? There was no episode 1. Well, it just so happens that Sottle and I's Hot Takes were just too hot to release episode 1. And maybe if you're lucky, the unedited version will be released to the world at some point in the future. But for now, we're just going to call this episode 2. I'm TJ, of course. I'm joined by my constant co-host for Hot Takes. It's Sottle. Sottle, how are you doing on this fine morning?
Yeah, I'm getting ready for Hot Takes, the Director's Cut, Too Hot for YouTube edition coming out soon. It's going to be pretty huge. Our viewers are going to go through the roof. But yeah, I'm feeling good. I had a very enjoyable time with you yesterday in our new forged bond of friendship and collaboration and unity in Stormwind or whatever we're doing, which again, viewers will have no idea what's going on having not seen last week's episode, but still, here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, I will say before we get this episode underway that, and I think you might agree, that I've been having a ton of fun with Hearthstone. I think this is one of the best metagames we've had in a long time.
Yup.
And that translates to Grandmasters. It's been
you have to stop. You have to stop saying that, TJ. You'll ruin our like to dislike ratio if we keep talking about how much we like this meta. It's not a popular opinion. Well, I suppose this is Hot Takes. Maybe that's the point. No, never mind. Continue. It's fine.
Well, I hated it at first and then learned to love it. So I guess, we were kind of at odds for a bit, which is how we normally are. But let's get underway with some hot takes. We're going to try and keep it short and sweet today. There's a couple hot button topics that we're going to be talking about. So first hot take. This one comes directly from Sottle. The best player in the world is from Japan. I'm stealing your thunder.
I mean, that's fine because, honestly, again, in the newfound spirit of Hot Takes, I'm not even really sure where I stand on this one. I just think it'd be an interesting idea to talk about because certainly when you look at APAC, the Japanese contingent of, Alatemu, Trahizan, Possessi, etc., they do seem to outshine everyone else by quite some distance. Maybe like Lambi Series Surrender thrown in there, right? But that's the question. Like, can the best player in the world be from a GM region that isn't Europe, right? Like, can Messi be the best player in the world playing in France, which, as we all know, TJ, is a farmers league? Like, do you have to be playing against the best competition week in, week out to show that you're the best player, right? Like, Gabby is excelling in the most difficult region. Does that put him on a pedestal above the APAC players? Like, I'm not even really sure.
Well, I think, we have to take a step back and look at, is Europe even the best region anymore? I honestly am unsure. I would rule Americas out of that conversation.
Good. All right, good. We can continue.
So we can continue, in good faith, right?
Yeah.
APAC has improved tremendously just as a region.
Yeah.
If you look at just how clean their play is overall, I think that it's been the same for Europe. And obviously, we can't tell because they're not playing against each other until we get to those big tournaments. But I think that they are playing against some of the best players in the world, and the Japanese players are consistently coming out on top. Looking at them as a collective, it's like the best performing sub-region of the APAC region. And
yes,
I mean, Possessi's just good, just real good. So I would say that we can look at it in that light, but we all know that the best player in the world is from Canada.
Kayla's Luna? I mean, he's pretty good.
Kayla's Luna, Monsanto, Language Hacker, all in the conversation. All in the conversation.
If only Language Hacker just wouldn't get so damn unlucky all the time.
I know.
He'd be so good.
I know.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Brutal.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's really brutal out there. Monsanto, we talked about it on, Lorinda and I talked about it on broadcast over the weekend. He would have been promoted to Europe Grandmasters as well. So,
yep. Absolutely.
Masters Tours and now GM winning a week. I think it's hands down. Canada is housing the best player in the world right now.
But I mean, we can move on. But I just want to add that that's kind of the point, right? Is I think you can take 5 or 6 players from APAC, maybe 8 players from APAC, and predominantly those players are Japanese. And you can take a handful of players from Americas and say these are really, really good. But the problem is when you go over to Europe, I feel like our players that like are missing playoffs and getting relegated are still very much to that same standard in a lot of positions. And that's why, to me, like someone like a Frenetic or a Gabby or Bunny Hopper or the players, whoever's doing well in European Grandmasters is just always going to be a little bit more impressive because there are no easy matches in Europe GM, I guess is what I'm saying.
All right. Europe has the depth. Americas has the stars. And Japan's got a bunch of good players.
Seems fair to me.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'll sum that up for you. I'll put the words right in your mouth. All right. Hot take number 2. This one's going to be a little bit contested, I feel. Quest Shaman is the best deck in the game, and it isn't even close. So, Quest Shaman was played a lot over the course of this weekend in Hearthstone Grandmasters, and it wasn't being banned very often. And it was performing quite well for a deck that wasn't being banned and was an expected bring. It also just doesn't feel like it really has any bad matchups. It's beating just about any deck. It's got late game power as well as the ability to play aggressively, especially, depending on how you build your list. I also don't think players have found the right list yet. I don't think we've reached the perfect 30 for Quest Shaman. And once that happens, I think you're going to see it shoot up in win rate. I think that it already is, even outside of Grandmasters, it's just like a really good deck, and there's not many things keeping it in check.
Oh, I mean, I'm not here to speculate on my crystal ball as to what an optimized Shaman list might look like in the future, but as to what it looks like now, I honestly feel with this metagame, the majority of the decks being played are still really bad and too linear, and that might be Warlock's fault for warping the metagame, where Warlock just went so extreme in one direction that then the aggro decks had to go so extreme in the other direction to beat Warlock, and then Shaman comes along, which is a deck that kind of exists kind of in an extreme middle ground, if that makes any sense, where it has a very clear half of its deck that kills aggro and then a very clear half of its deck that deals with control. But in terms of decks being well-rounded and being able to win multiple matchups, so many decks have so many glaring weaknesses, and I think that includes Shaman right now. I've been playing a lot of the new Demon Hunter builds, like the Jace build with no quest and the weapon build with quest and so on. You play against Shaman, you just clear their board once or twice and smash them in the head, and they just collapse. They just fall over and die. There's so many decks in the metagame that are just very polarized right now, and I feel like Quest Shaman fits into that, which is why probably we saw it do so well in Last Hero Standing overall, right? It seemed to be ever-present in every lineup. It seemed to be doing its job in Q-sniping aggro. Whether we'll see it have that same success in Masters Tour when we go back to Conquest and you actually have to have a well-rounded lineup against a spread of matchups, I'm not so sure, because I think the deck still has so many holes in it.
Well, metagames over time usually start to get closer to that middle ground, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not in Last Hero Standing as much, but as a metagame evolves, usually everything kind of goes more towards the center. Except when you're talking about extreme cases, like in old mid-range Shaman metagame, right? Where there was where there's one completely dominant deck, and the metagame has to completely shift to beat that deck or play around it. But I think that Quest Shaman, because it is that extreme middle ground and because it has that kind of wide breadth of matchup, good matchups, that as the metagame progresses, Quest Shaman is just going to get even better than it is right now. And I'm completely willing to look stupid if Quest Shaman isn't even a deck in a couple weeks.
How is that an expression that we went with, by the way? I love that you just picked up extreme middle ground as if that makes any sense at all and just rolled with it. Love it. Thanks, TJ.
I mean, at a certain point, you just have to kind of, pick up the pieces, accept your losses, and realize that Sottle just says some cool things sometimes. And you just adopt them and you roll with it. So I feel like that strategy has worked for me.
It's just the accent, TJ. It makes things sound like they make sense when they absolutely don't.
Man, I just need to learn how to do a really good British accent. I feel
like
my casting would improve dramatically.
For a good 7 years, you've been trying. You haven't got there yet.
There we go. That's my Sottle impression. And I have a third and final bonus hot take.
Oh, okay.
Let me read this one carefully because this one is very contentious. Here we go. Warlock has an absurdly high win rate in Grandmasters. Whew.
Wow. I mean, steady on. I know we got cancelled last week, TJ, but jeez, you're really trying to rile me up here with this level of controversy. I think we could just get taken off YouTube entirely. Let me just check the numbers, actually. Oh, no, you're right. Yeah, no, Warlock does have an insanely high win rate in Grandmasters. Yeah, nothing further to add.
Yeah, it's actually just a fact.
Yeah.
Warlock is busted. 6% higher than any other deck in the field. Question Shaman is still the best deck in the game, and it isn't even close, but that is a fact. Warlock has an absurdly high win rate.
And also 8 times as many bans as any other deck.
Yeah. Well, great hot take. Nice third one there to finish things off. But we are done for the week, Sottle. And we have a Masters Tour coming up, so I'm looking forward to that. Will you be casting the Masters Tour this weekend?
I will be there, yes, indeed.
Oh, nice. Me too. We get that rare Sottle TJ pair at some point. We can continue this hot takes on Masters Tour Silver Moon this weekend. So thank you very much, Sottle, for joining me once again, and thank you to everyone who's tuned in to episode 2 of Hot Takes. Maybe you'll see episode 1 at some point. Who knows? But again, Masters Tour Silver Moon, it is in the Americas time zone, so make sure you tune in. It's going to start at 9 a.m. Pacific time, which is noon Eastern time. It's a great metagame, as Sottle and I have been parroting, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So thanks for watching Hot Takes, and we'll see you next time.